All right, everybody. I would like to introduce you to Dr. Irina Starikova. She was born in northern Siberia, and she's a mathematician. And she will be talking to us about the about the Soviet education system. I've managed to arrange an interview. She's currently living in Brazil. And she's a philosopher of mathematics, and she researches in visualizations and thought experiments. Irina, do you want to add anything else to that?
Yes. So I have a mathematical background, but I am doing research in philosophy of mathematics. And yes, it's visualizations in mathematics, mathematical aesthetics as well. And I met Kevin in Bristol, where I was doing my PhD. And I also studied in Budapest in Central European University. And I had a postdoc in Sao Paulo State University. So it's a great pleasure for me to be invited to this interview, Kevin.
Thank you, Irina. Could you just briefly explain to me how you experienced life on a general basis as a child when you were growing up in the Soviet Union?
I was a happy child. I I loved my family. I loved school. It was very interesting. I had great summers, holidays, and I did lots of sports, lots of activities. We had a so-called Pioneers Palace where we could do some crafts and pursue our interests, sort of classes. I did class in art, and yes, it was great. What was the most frustrating? It was the climate. Very long, cold winters. Mind
Yeah.
you, I was born in North Siberia, and when it was below 53, we were allowed not to go to school. Can you imagine? When it
Below
when
52.
it was minus 20, it was great, and
Okay.
we could do skating, and all the snow and ice activities.
Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Can you please give me or give us a general overview of the late Soviet education system as you experienced it uh, in 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 that period, which I
Okay.
guess would be what would it be? Sort of.
It was late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
So the school system was, first of all, school education was obligatory, and it was, yeah, 8 years it was obligatory. And after 8 years, those who had not so excellent grades would go to work or would go to professional development institutions where they would study 2 more years to become a carpenter or a plumber, or they would study 4 years to become a nurse, um, some more advanced professional worker, right? And those who would stay in school, they could study 2 more years, and this would call the high school, comparative to the early stage of middle school. And then after the 2 years, one could go to the university. I thought university is obligatory, was obligatory. When my
Okay.
mom when my mom mentioned that it was so tough for her that she could have not go to university, I was surprised. So I did go to the university, and at the university it's 5 years. It used to be 5 years, and then when in late 90s they did it 4 years for bachelor degree and 2 more years for master's degree, and then you can go to do kandidatskaya, which was like 2 years, and then doctorate.
Okay, okay, thank you for that. So how many, sorry, how did the top end specialized schools fit into this? How many were there across the USSR roughly, and how many pupils? I would imagine we're talking about the mathematical type ones at the moment. And what were the specialty topics of each category, if you know?
I studied in a physical mathematical school in Novosibirsk. It was founded by Mikhail Lavrentiev, a famous physicist, the founder of the Institute of Explosion, of Physics of Explosion, and one of the developers of nuclear bomb in Soviet Union. The school was established in 1963, and at the same year, 3 more schools were founded in Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Kiev, Ukraine now. In the first year in Novosibirsk, there were 100 students, and nowadays they have 500 students. Something like 250 teachers. Most of them are scientists. As far as I remember, the school have the graduates. There are 500 graduates with doctorate degrees.
All right. Okay. Just one question that arises is where somebody told me that there were 2 types of specialized school. There was the top end ones, but there are also ones for specialized schools for children with learning or other difficulties. Do you know anything about these ones or not?
Right. This school, this physical mathematical school, the specialization is sciences, and it's a boarding school, so children could stay in the city. The school has 4 buildings, 2 buildings for 2 dormitories, 1 dining building, and 1 school for studying building. Boarding schools, or they're called internats, they're also for children who have no families or who have incomplete and poor families, and they had different curriculum. Of course, there are also other schools specialized in ballet, sports, ballet sports. That's as far as I know.
Okay. Now, how did the selection process take place for a top end specialized school? Was the I mean, what proportion of the students, for instance, would come from, at a top end school? Would a high proportion come from ordinary backgrounds, like working class or peasant families, for instance? You
I
know?
don't know the proportion exactly, but I would have thought that at that time families would have support anyway. And I don't know, for us, for kids, it was difficult to understand that somebody is really, really poor. As far as I saw, we had some everything basics we need. Mm.
Okay. Sorry.
No, no.
Were you going to add anything else, or shall I move?
Yeah, I want to say that there was a small fee for this school, but it was waived for children from poor families
Okay. Okay.
with low income.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And would you would to what extent would you say the specialized schools were a phenomenon of egalitarianism and or of elitism? Would you say that there was any anything to say on that?
Well, these were definitely elite schools, but elite in the sense scientific elite. So um, this just means that any one of us could become a famous scientist.
Okay.
And of course, and it was at the same time it was accessible to any social level, and for children for very remote places in Russia. I was from North Siberia, but I was from the city, and many in my class were from very small, tiny villages. Nevertheless, we all were equal.
Okay, that's interesting. So what did do you know if the membership of the party had anything to do with it or not?
You mean Communist Party?
Yeah. Was there any connection to that or not?
Well, of course, Soviet education at all levels was politicalized, and there was always propaganda. Starting from the first class at school, we had so-called Organization of October Children from the first to the third class, and then we would transmit into another organization, pioneers, young pioneers, and then in the 8th class we would become members of Komsomol.
Yeah, okay.
And I remember myself, I was excluded from Komsomol in at the first year of the university because it was not, I was not participating anymore, and but it was already, nobody was participating anymore. It was already on the background.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. In your own school, then, how was teaching and the daily term year curriculum organized? If you can tell us some details about that and about the things you thought were useful for students and those that you didn't think were useful. Could you elaborate?
In my normal school, I think it was really great that we were supposed to help our classmates, those who couldn't be that successful for some reasons. So I would be a tutor of a couple of my classmates. And I think it was good because I learned this experience, and it was a pleasure for me to help. And then at the mathematical school, we have lots of freedom and independence. I think it was a lot. We had self-ruling days, for example, which means during 1 week, something like 1 week or half week, the volunteers would be teaching the subjects they would like to the classmates. I was teaching English. We could use our own materials and introduce the exercises we like.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
so the subjects, the science subjects, mathematics, physics, chemistry, were framed in the university curriculum way. So we had lectures and we have seminars, practical hours. And at the end of the week and at the end of the month, we would have long list of problems to solve. So we were responsible for quite a lot of things.
Okay. That's
For
interesting.
the rest of the subjects, they were taught in the same way as in usual schools, but still we have great teachers. We have such classes as the history of culture and art, with a great medioteca and with a great collection of classical music, films, um, vinyl records, and we even had a real instrument. We had a piano. Anyone could take the key in this time and use the room. I was exercising my piano in the evenings, and at the time I really fell in love with Viennese waltzes. By the way, we had a course, a short course on dancing Viennese waltzes just before the graduation, so that we could be able to dance Viennese waltz on our graduation ball.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
yeah, I want to add, it was really great, very, really inspiring that on top of obligatory courses, we had facultative, so-called, optional courses
Mhm.
in mathematics and physics run by volunteers from research institutes. So those were real enthusiasts, and we could learn from first hand what's going on in this subject, and they would share the enthusiasm, and they were looking for pupils for them. So they really were interested in sharing their knowledge.
Okay. That's interesting.
It was
Um,
great.
just what was the students' relationship with the teachers like? I mean, I've heard some stories that teachers teachers in the Soviet Union could be quite harsh. Did you have that experience or not?
Um, uh, yes and no. Yes, yeah, that's true. They could be very harsh. They could tell you at your face that you're a fool, but not so much at this specialized school. Although we did have a teacher, I remember it was an English teacher, and when she was angry with us, she would say, "And you will go to bed." Bed, it's abbreviation of pedagogical institute, which was ranked much lower than the university. But overall, since the majority of our teachers were scientists, and they already saw us as their future colleagues,
Okay.
they were very friendly and patient, and they were we were feeling like equal with them, just very young, and but they developed in us this feeling that we are already scientists, and we can do what we want. I remember we had the competition of fantastic projects. It actually was in a summer school, so that anybody who wants can present his fantastic projects. So we were dreaming about building rockets, spaceships, colliders.
Wow. Hey. Right. Just one last question then. If say the USSR hadn't collapsed, how different do you think your own academic and philosophy of mathematics trajectory might have been? Do you think it would have been different? Or?
Oh, what a thought experiment. This is my subject of research. Wow. Perhaps I wouldn't become a philosopher. Perhaps I would stay a mathematician, or I don't know, a mathematician, yeah, or a programmer.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Irina, for your help and telling us all about the Soviet education system. That was especially in the specialized schools. That was very, very interesting. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for your interest.
No problem. Right.